Stop letting vendors pick your first AI use case. Let me start with something that I see quite often. So the real reason many AI programs, they stall or fail is not because the technology is weak. It's because the first move is designed and defined by a vendor instead of the actual business. And what usually happens is this. So leadership teams, executives are approached by several AI companies. Each company presents a compelling use case. It all sounds logic, it looks impressive, and there are case studies and dashboards. So we choose one, right? Who wouldn't? We're being sold on something that looks good and is promising. But sometimes, I'm not saying this happens every single time, but sometimes the solution does not fully fit into the operations. Maybe we added another dashboard, maybe we added more complexity, or the business wasn't deeply involved in defining the problem. So this means that IT is stretched and momentum slows down. And from where we sit and from what we hear from the clients that we work with is that it's not the cost of the actual pilot, right? So whatever this vendor charges, that's not the cost. The cost is the opportunity cost of what else we could have done, but also the time and the trust that was lost during this process. That's why we take a step back as consultants. We begin by asking questions, and the logic is actually extremely simple. So first, we define the operational bottleneck. Where is the real friction? Where do we lose money? Where do we want to cut costs? Do we want to improve availability, or do we have problems with the tons per hour moved? Secondly, we want to evaluate potential ideas based on the business value and the realistic feasibility. So what do I mean by that? It's basically we map the ideas that we collect with the business we work with and say on a scale from 1 to 5, how valuable is this idea? And from a scale from 1 to 5, how technical feasible is this idea as a use case? And only after that should vendors be evaluated. All right, so we basically define the problem before we talk about the solution. If that order is reversed, all right, coming back to the vendor defining the solution, the tool, the old saying, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's basically what we're trying to argue here. So if I were in your position, I would pause the vendor conversation and ask one simple question. What operational pain are we trying to remove? And if that answer is not clear, from our point of view, no technology decision should be made. If you want our approach for this, you can click the link below. We have a white paper outlining the process, and we'll also have a free online tool where you can run through the method and the process that we use when we help mining companies define use cases, starting with the problem first.